What if I told you that Republicans just swept 3 special elections in heavily Latino districts and outperformed Trump's 2024 margins by double digits in every single race? That in one New Mexico district, the Republican candidate crushed his opponent by 30 points more than Trump did just months ago. And that the entire Democrat midterm strategy, built on the assumption that Latino voters are coming home to the left, just collapsed in a single night. Stick around, because what happened next will blow your mind. The legacy media has spent months telling you a story, a very specific story, a story designed to demoralize you, to make you question the realignment you witnessed in 2024, and to convince you that the Latino shift toward the Republican Party was a one-time anomaly driven entirely by Trump's personal appeal that would evaporate the moment he was not on the ballot. They told you ICE raids were driving Latinos back to the Democrats. They told you tariffs were turning Hispanic business owners against the Republican Party. They told you the Iran operation was scaring Latino families. They told you poll after poll showed the shift reversing. They told you with absolute confidence that the Latino vote was coming home to the Democrat Party just in time for the midterms. And then last night happened. And last night destroyed every single word of that narrative so completely that the media is not even covering the results this morning. You will not find a single word about what happened last night on the front page of any major news outlet, because what happened last night is the single most devastating data point for the Democrat midterm strategy that has emerged in this entire cycle. If you believe that the Latino realignment toward the Republican Party is real, permanent, and accelerating, and that what happened last night proves the media has been lying to you about where Hispanic voters actually stand, smash that like button right now. Every click helps us get the truth out to millions of Americans who are being deliberately kept in the dark about the most consequential demographic shift in modern political history. Because by the end of this video, you will understand exactly what happened in 3 heavily Latino districts last night and why the margins are so staggering that they have fundamentally changed the midterm calculus. Why Republicans are not just matching Trump's 2024 numbers, but exceeding them by double digits in races where Trump is not even on the ballot. What is driving the Latino shift, and why it is deeper and more permanent than anything the media is willing to acknowledge. And what this means for the battleground House districts that will determine whether Republicans keep the majority in November. Now let me walk you through the 3 races one by one, because when you see the numbers side by side, you will understand why the Democrat Party should be in a state of absolute panic this morning. Race number 1, the West Miami mayoral election. For those who do not know West Miami, let me paint the picture. This is one of the most Latino communities in the entire United States. Roughly 90% Hispanic. The largest group is Cuban Americans. These are the families of people who fled communism, who escaped Castro's regime, who watched their parents and grandparents lose everything to a socialist government and then rebuild their lives from nothing in the United States of America. They know exactly what the left's ideology leads to because their families lived through it. President Trump won West Miami in 2024 by 31 points. 31 points is a dominant margin in any community. It represented an enormous shift from where Latinos had been voting just a few years earlier. And the media assured us that this was Trump's personal appeal, a one-time phenomenon driven by his unique personality and his unique connection with Cuban Americans. Last night, the Republican mayoral candidate Eric Diaz Padron won West Miami by 42 points. 42. 71% to 29%. That is not just a victory. That is an extinction-level event for the Democrat Party in that community. The Republican candidate outperformed Trump's already historic 2024 margin by 11 points, plus 11. Without Trump on the ballot, without the presidential campaign apparatus, without the national media attention, without the billions of dollars in advertising, a local Republican candidate in a local race outperformed the most dominant Republican presidential performance in that community in modern history by 11 points. That is not a fluke. That is not a one-off. That is a community that is moving to the right at an accelerating pace. The shift did not stop when Trump left the ballot. It got bigger. Race number 2, the West Miami City Council election. Same city, same demographics, same community. And if you thought the mayoral result was staggering, the city council result is even more jaw-dropping. The Republican candidate for city council outperformed Trump's 2024 margin by 18 points, plus 18, in a community that is over 85% Hispanic. The Democrats did not just lose, they were annihilated at a level that exceeds anything Trump himself achieved in that same community just months ago. Think about what that means. The media told you the Latino shift was all about Trump, that it was personality driven, that it would evaporate when Trump was not at the top of the ticket. And in the very first test of that theory, in a local election with no Trump on the ballot and no national attention, the Republican candidate did not match Trump's numbers. He exceeded them by 18 points. That does not happen if the shift is personality driven. That does not happen if voters are simply following a celebrity. That happens when a community has fundamentally, structurally, and permanently realigned its political identity. When the shift survives the absence of the figure who is supposedly responsible for it, you are no longer looking at a trend. You are looking at a new political reality. Race number 3, the Rio Rancho, New Mexico mayoral election. This is the one that should make every Democrat strategist in Washington physically ill. Because this race was not in South Florida. It was not in a Cuban-American enclave with a built-in anti-communist tradition. It was in New Mexico, a reliably blue state, a state that Democrats have counted on for years, a state where the Latino population is not Cuban, but predominantly Mexican-American, a demographic that Democrats have always assumed was permanently theirs. The Republican candidate in the Rio Rancho mayoral race outperformed Trump's 2024 margin by 30 points. 30, 3-0. In a heavily Hispanic, working-class district in a blue state. That is not a blip. That is not noise. That is a political earthquake. A 30-point overperformance in a district that is supposed to be safe Democrat territory by every model and every assumption that the political establishment operates on. And it happened in a race with no Trump on the ballot, no national attention, and no tens of millions of dollars in advertising. Now let me put all three results together, because when you see them side by side, the pattern is unmistakable. West Miami mayor, plus 11 over Trump's margin. West Miami City Council, plus 18 over Trump's margin. Rio Rancho mayor, plus 30 over Trump's margin. 3 races, 3 heavily Latino communities, 3 Republican victories. And in all 3, the Republican candidate did not just match Trump's 2024 performance. They demolished it by double digits in races where Trump was not on the ballot. That is not a sweep. That is a demolition. That is the complete and total collapse of the Democrat Party's position with Latino voters, happening in real time, in real elections, with real votes. And here is what makes these results so significant for the midterms. The media can fabricate polls. They can oversample demographics. They can weight their data to produce any result they want. And they have been doing exactly that for months, producing poll after poll showing Latino voters shifting back to the Democrats. But polls are not votes. Polls are opinions given to strangers on the phone. Votes are actions taken in privacy by individuals who are making the most honest political statement they will ever make. And last night, in the privacy of the voting booth in West Miami and Rio Rancho, Latino voters made their statement. And their statement was a Republican landslide that exceeded even the most optimistic projections. Now, let me explain what is driving this shift, because the answer is not one thing. It is everything. The economy. Latino workers are disproportionately employed in construction, small business, manufacturing, and service industries. These are the sectors that feel economic changes most acutely. When gas prices go up, they feel it. When grocery costs rise, they feel it. When housing becomes unaffordable, they feel it. And when the economy is booming under Republican leadership, with 100% of new jobs going to American citizens, they feel that too. Immigration. And this is the part that the media consistently gets wrong. The assumption on the left has always been that because Latinos are immigrants or the children of immigrants, they must support open borders and oppose enforcement. That assumption is not just wrong, it is offensively wrong. Legal immigrants and their families despise illegal immigration more than almost any other demographic in America. They waited in line, they followed the rules, they did it the right way, and they resent, deeply and personally, people who cut the line, who come illegally, who benefit from systems that legal immigrants never had access to, who drive down wages in the exact industries where legal immigrants work. When President Trump sealed the border, Latino voters did not recoil in horror. They applauded, because they understand better than anyone that a secure border protects the value of their own sacrifice. Law and order. Latino communities have been among the hardest hit by the explosion of crime that has swept through American cities under Democrat governance. The defund the police movement was never popular in Latino neighborhoods. The soft-on-crime prosecutors were never popular in Latino neighborhoods. The open-air drug markets and the homeless encampments and the shoplifting epidemics, all of these disproportionately impact the Latino communities that the Democrats claim to champion. When Latinos look at the Democrat Party's approach to public safety, they see a party that prioritizes the rights of criminals over the safety of their families, and they are voting accordingly. Family values. This is the factor that the media will never discuss because it contradicts their entire framework. Latino culture is deeply, authentically, traditionally conservative, family-centered, faith-centered, protective of children, respectful of authority, skeptical of government overreach, and profoundly hostile to the woke ideology that the Democrat Party has embraced as its core identity. When the Democrat Party pushes biological men into women's sports, Latino families recoil. When the Democrat Party pushes gender ideology in elementary schools, Latino parents revolt. When the Democrat Party tells Latino families that their Catholic faith and their traditional values are bigoted and outdated, Latino voters respond by walking out the door and into the Republican Party. The media frames the Latino shift as a mystery. It is not a mystery. It is the most predictable political development of the last decade. A culturally conservative, family-oriented, faith-driven, hard-working community looked at a party that has become radically progressive, culturally hostile, economically incompetent, and soft on crime. And they said no thanks. Now let me explain why this matters so much for November, because the midterm math runs directly through Latino communities and the Democrats know it. The battleground for control of the House of Representatives is concentrated in swing districts with large Latino populations. Texas, Florida, Arizona, California, Nevada, New Mexico. These are the states with the competitive House races. And these are the states where the Latino vote will determine the outcome. The Democrats' entire midterm strategy is built on one assumption, that the Latino voters who went with Trump in 2024 are coming back home, that the shift was temporary, that the personal appeal of Trump will not transfer to down-ballot Republican candidates, that once Trump is off the ballot, Latinos will revert to their traditional Democrat voting patterns. Last night annihilated that assumption. 3 races, 3 Latino communities, 3 Republican candidates who are not named Donald Trump, all 3 outperforming Trump's margins by double digits. The shift is not about Trump. The shift is about values, about economics, about security, about culture, about a fundamental mismatch between what the Democrat Party has become and what Latino communities actually want. And the data from 2024 already told this story. Edison Research found that Trump won Latino men outright in 2024 at 54%. That was a 40-point swing to the right compared to recent cycles. Pew Research found that Trump came close to winning the overall Latino vote outright. Numbers that would have been unthinkable 10 years ago when Latinos were voting 2-1 for Democrats, 2-1 for Obama. And now they are splitting evenly or even favoring Republicans. But last night's results suggest something even more dramatic. They suggest that the shift is not plateauing, it is accelerating. +11, +18, +30. Those are not numbers that indicate a stabilization. Those are numbers that indicate a movement gaining speed. And if the movement is gaining speed in off-year special elections without Trump on the ballot, where will it be by November when the full weight of the Republican campaign apparatus is deployed? The Democrats cannot win the House without winning Latino voters by significant margins. That has been their formula for decades. The Obama coalition was not built on black voters alone. It was built on the 2-1 Latino advantage that gave Democrats their margins in swing states. That advantage is gone. It is not diminished, it is gone. And based on last night, it may be reversing into a Republican advantage that is larger than anything Obama ever achieved in the opposite direction. The media is already trying to memory hole last night's results. You will not find coverage on CNN. You will not find it on MSNBC. You will not find it on the front page of the New York Times or the Washington Post, because covering these results would require them to admit that the narrative they have been selling for months is a complete fabrication, that the polls they have been citing are worthless, and that the Latino realignment they have been denying is not only real, but is accelerating beyond their worst nightmares. But the voting booth does not lie. The polling can lie. The media can lie. The pundits can lie. The voting booth cannot. And last night, in 3 voting booths in 3 heavily Latino communities across 2 states, the verdict was delivered. And the verdict is devastating for the Democrat Party. The Latino vote is not coming home to the Democrats. It has found a new home, and that home is the Republican Party. Not because of Trump's personality, not because of a temporary emotional reaction, but because of values, economics, security, faith, family, culture, the things that matter most to real people living real lives in real communities. The Republican Party's Latino coalition is not retreating. It is consolidating. It is deepening. It is becoming more structural, more permanent, and more electorally powerful with every election that passes. And heading into November, with the most consequential midterm in a generation on the line, that coalition is the single most important political asset any party has. The Democrats built their entire future on the assumption that demographic change would deliver them a permanent majority. They looked at the growing Latino population and saw guaranteed votes. They opened the border because they thought they were importing their future coalition. They took Latino voters for granted the same way they took black voters for granted and working class voters for granted and every other demographic they have ever claimed to champion. And now they are losing them all, one by one, community by community, election by election, 30 points at a time. The realignment is real. Last night proved it, and November is going to confirm it in a way that the Democrat Party will never recover from. Don't stop here. The special election results are just the latest in a series of seismic shifts that are reshaping the American political map. Click on the next video and join us as we continue to track the Latino realignment, the midterm battleground, and every development that is proving the political revolution is stronger than ever.